Hey everyone, my name is Cassandra Decker. I am a realtor in South Carolina. I'm primarily based out of Florence. So today I want to give you some information about a VA home loan. And why do I want to do that? I myself have been in the military for 19 years and some change. I am almost to retirement, and I just want to educate, inform, and inspire other soldiers like myself to take advantage of their VA home loan and all the benefits that surround it if you are wanting to be a homeowner. So today we're going to talk about the VA home loan. If this is your jam, if this is what you're looking for, maybe you're a first-time user, maybe you currently have a VA home loan and you want to see what other benefits that you can do to use, or what other benefits using that VA home loan will get you. So stick around and we're going to go through this. All right, so what is a VA home loan? A VA home loan is simply that the Department of Veterans Affairs is saying we're going to back you up. So if little brother goes into a fight, big brother, who is the Department of Veterans Affairs, is basically saying if and when you run into trouble, we're here to back you up to make you look better, right? Okay, so the VA doesn't actually give you a loan. It is just saying we're backing you up, okay? So it looks better to lenders who you're going to go to get a loan. It looks better to them because they say, oh, they got a VA home loan, they're backed up. But there's other things why realtors and appraisers and lenders look at a VA home loan and they're like, oh my goodness, it's a VA home loan. And I'm going to tell you why. There's a lot of really great benefits to it. So number one, as someone that qualifies for a VA home loan, you are putting 0% down. So normally when you go and tour a house with a realtor, you're gonna say, hey, I'm gonna put 10 or 20% down on this house. So that takes a big chunk of change out of your pocket right up front. With the VA home loan, we do not have to do that. We get 0% down. Another benefit is what's called no private mortgage insurance. So you have to have home insurance. That's different than this. A private mortgage insurance is insurance on the mortgage itself. Okay, completely different than home insurance. All right, you have to have home insurance. Now, another benefit is that VA home loans have very competitive rates. Right now, it is June of 2025. The last that I saw is that a VA home loan, if you have great numbers, great score credit, you can qualify for a VA home loan in the middle 5% range. Anything like a conventional or FHA loan, they might be looking at high 6-7%, and that's without paying like any points or anything like that. That is just because the VA home loan can help you qualify for a greater percentage rate, which is what you want, right? So the lower that your percentage rate is, or your interest rate, the more home that you can actually qualify for, or more home that you can buy, okay? Another benefit is that the VA home loan has limited closing costs, and we'll go through that. They have a flexible credit score requirement, which makes it easier to obtain a loan for a lot of people. And they also don't have prepayment penalties. So if you want to make an extra payment on your house or pay it off a little bit earlier, they're not going to charge you a fee to do that, which is really nice. Now let's talk about who is actually eligible for a VA home loan. First of all, active duty members. So you have to have at least 90 days consecutive service, and that is not including basic training, AIT. That does not include that. So it's after you graduate from all your training, this is when your active duty service time actually starts. And then the second one is veterans. So if you are a veteran, that means that depending on what time that you served, you're either looking at 181 days of active duty time up to 24 months. And again, that's depending on the time that you served. I'm going to tell you where to find that if you're kind of like, oh, I don't know. All right, so hang with me. The third is National Guard and Reserves. That's my specialty. That's, like I said, I believe at the beginning, is that I've been in 19 years and some change. All of that has been National Guard. So if you are National Guard or Reserves, this is your area. So you have to either have completed your first 6-year contract. Those go by super fast. So after 6 years, you can qualify for a VA home loan, or if you have 90 days active duty wartime. That is not like you went on orders and gave, for a little mission or something. That is active duty wartime orders, okay? The fourth is some surviving spouses of veterans who died in a service-related injury or something like that. The surviving spouses can also qualify for a VA home loan. Now, if you still are unsure if you qualify, or if you are ready to start applying for the VA home loan, you're going to find that at va.gov. So you're going to go on there and find what's called a Certificate of Eligibility, or a COE. You are going to fill out that information. I think it's Social Security stuff. They're going to find your information, and it will tell you if you've done your time, you've done your orders to qualify for a VA home loan. Okay? All right. So now I'm going to get into a little bit more specifics for South Carolina. If you're not buying in South Carolina, don't go, because I got a lot more valuable information after this little South Carolina special real quick. So in South Carolina, we have what's called no official loan limit. So let's say that you can qualify for $1 million loan on a house. The VA home loan does not have like a limit of, no, you can only buy, we're only going to back you on $300,000. That is not the case. They will back you your whole loan if you have what is called full entitlement, and I will get to that in just a minute. For buyers with partial entitlement, if you have partial entitlement, your loan limit can only go up to $766,000 plus some change. And I'm going to spell out a little bit more of full versus partial in just a moment. But again, you still have to qualify with a lender based on how much money that you're bringing in every month versus your debt to income ratio. They're going to spit out a number in their fancy computers and tell you exactly how much of a home loan that you actually qualify for with their program. Now again, you can shop around and make sure that whatever lender that you're going through, that they are very knowledgeable with a VA home loan, because it definitely makes a big difference. So that is one specific to South Carolina. Another specific is what is called the funding fee. So the VA is basically going to say, I'm going to back you up, but I'm going to charge you your price, right? So they have what's called the VA funding fee. If you're a first-time user or first-time home loan user in South Carolina, you're going to pay 2.15% of the loan. So if you buy a house, or you're applying for a loan that's $300,000, you're going to take that amount and multiply it by 2.15%, come up with like $6,000 and some change. So you can tack that on to the loan at the end of it if you'd like to, or you can pay it up front. I'm sure everybody would like to tack it on to the end, but you never know. If you're a subsequent user, or if you've already used your VA home loan once, you do qualify to use it multiple times. But the second time that you use it and going on from there is a 3.3% funding fee that they're going to apply to whatever home loan that you are trying to secure. Okay, there is a way that you can pay it down, so you can reduce it down to as low as 1.25%, but you would have to put 10% of the loan down initially. So you're going to have more money out of pocket. So like if you're buying a home that's $300,000, you're looking at a $30,000 down payment. And then the funding fee is going to be at 1.25%. You're looking around $3,000 and some change. So if you can afford a $30,000 down payment, or if you want to take advantage of that zero down payment, it's your choice, right? Another thing with South Carolina is what is it's beautiful, but if you have a 100% disability rating, 100%, you are fully exempt from property taxes. That includes homes and vehicles and campers and anything that's property taxes, right? So South Carolina itself has pretty affordable property taxes when it comes to homes, at least in Florence. Now, with vehicles, it's a little more expensive than what I'm used to in Ohio. So, but the way that you can apply for that is going to be through what is called the South Carolina Department of Revenue. All right. There are some other specifics to South Carolina, such as a down payment assistance. But again, if you're taking advantage of the VA home loan, you don't really have to put a down payment if you don't want to. So I don't really know why you would take advantage of a down payment assistance if you don't have to do that, right? Okay, and that's it for South Carolina. So everybody who's not moving to South Carolina, this is going back to everyone. All right, so some property requirements for a VA home loan. So a little bit earlier I said that lenders, appraisers, realtors, when they find out that you're financing with a VA home loan, that's when they kind of back up. But me, that I'm not backing up, because we worked hard to have that benefit. Okay, so work with someone who knows VA home loans and appreciates them, because it makes a huge difference. All right, so if you are securing a VA home loan to finance your home loan, they have what is called very strict primary resident requirements. So with the FHA and a conventional loan, they are like, their standards aren't as high as a VA home loan. And how that helps you as a military member who wants to buy a home with a VA home loan is that going into that home that your HVAC system is going to work, your plumbing system, your electrical system, your roof. The VA home loan has such a high standard as to what home qualifies for that loan, that it's trying to protect its military members, and that is beautiful, right? All right, another thing is, for a VA home loan, they require that you don't have any major termite damage or water damage. So this is also really good as to considering a local appraiser, an inspector, when they go in and check out the house, because they're going to know if it's in a flood zone. And if it's in a flood zone, it's probably not going to qualify, but you never know. All right. Another thing is, especially here in South Carolina, to qualify for a VA home loan, and it's a manufactured home, so a mobile home, it has to meet HUD standards, and it has to be on a permanent foundation. The two things: HUD standards, permanent foundation. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and talk about the full entitlement versus a partial entitlement. So if you are a first-time VA home loan user, you're going to automatically get full entitlements. If you currently have a VA home loan right now and you haven't sold it, and you want to buy another VA home, you can do that. The only thing is, let's say that you want to keep that first home, but you want to rent it out. So the first home would be under full entitlement, but you're renting it out. So you have to find somebody that wants to rent your place. You have to get them a rental agreement that is 12 months. And then you can go and find a second home to use with a VA home loan. So the only thing is, with the partial entitlement of this, now that you're using 2 VA home loans, when you add up the first home loan, so let's say the first home was $300, the second home that you want to buy is $300, you add them up together, that's $600. So in South Carolina for 2025, for a partial entitlement limit, you have to, those 2 loans together have to be less than $766,000 and some change, 550. So yeah, you can get 2 VA home loans, or let's say that right now you have a VA loan or a VA home loan and you're gonna get PCS because you just got orders or you're about to get deployed and you were just told 2 weeks ago, like I was on my first one. So if you want to rent out your home, you can do that. The VA, you don't have to tell the VA that you're getting PCS orders. You have to take residence. Once you get a VA home loan, you have to take residence within the first 60 days. Your spouse and your children can satisfy that rule. But they, as far as I can tell, they give exceptions if you have like PCS orders or you're getting deployed. They'll make exceptions. Anything other than that, their golden standard is you have to have lived in the primary residence for 12 months. All right, if you have questions on that, let me know, because I'm trying to work with some real estate investors right now, and using your VA home loan can be very beneficial in this. All right, so now we're going to talk about some pro tips for military members. So number 1, make sure you got a job, right? You're not going to qualify for any loan if you don't have a job and you don't have good work history. So you can't be changing a job every 3 months, right? Like some lenders, they even require you to have a job as long as 2 years. But don't get sidetracked or twisted on that. Reach out to a lender and see what their requirements are, all right? So after you have, the work history, if you have any debt, make sure that you're paying that down. So if you have credit cards, pay them off. Now, once you get them paid off, do not close the credit card, okay? Because you want a low debt rate, you want a low number on your credit card of what you owe, but you want a high history or a long history of how much credit that you have been working with. All right, so a long credit history, but you don't want a very high number of how much debt that you owe. So the lower debt that you have, the higher a home loan that you will qualify for, okay? And then after you do those 2 things, then you want to start figuring out where you want to live, right? Do you want to live by family? You want to go to the beach? Whatever. I'm here to help if you want to go to South Carolina. So you want to start with getting a pre-approval. And again, make sure this is a VA lender who knows what they're doing, all right? I have the same guy who was my VA lender work on my first and second one. He was absolutely amazing. I can, by law, I have to give you 3 recommendations. And most lenders are licensed in multiple states, so it doesn't really matter if you're moving here to South Carolina. I know a couple that are licensed in like all states versus like half the United States. So if you need a VA lender, reach out to me and I can probably hook you up with someone licensed in your area or your state. So we talked about pre-approval. Again, with a VA home loan, you're not having to pay for private mortgage insurance, so that's saving you hundreds of dollars every month. We already talked about the funding fee. And with a VA home loan, you have to get an inspection because the VA wants to make sure that that house is stable, right? That everything is working properly, that the military member itself is going to be set up in a good position when they go into that house. They want to make sure that the cookie doesn't look just good on the outside. They want to make sure that the inside looks great too, okay? And I'm talking about like plumbing, electrical, all of that stuff has to be working properly. All right. I think that's all that we talked about there. There's one more benefit for a VA home loan. So you have what's called a VA loan assumption, or that when you go to sell your home, you can also negotiate that person buying your home can assume your mortgage rate. Now, that doesn't mean that if you bought a home for $300,000, paid off $100,000, now they're paying the other $200,000. No, that is not what that means. You and your realtor can figure out a price point. They pay for the price point as long as it appraises for it. What assuming the mortgage rate means is that when you locked in your loan and it was at 5.5%, like right now in 2025, anybody that wants to buy your home can also lock in that rate. They do not have to be a military member. They can lock in that rate. And you know, when you kind of think about it, you're like, that's not really fair. They didn't serve our country. No, but at the same time, if the market is very competitive for selling a home, that is going to make your VA funded home look so much better to buyers. So that is an option when you go to sell your home. And again, if you're working with someone who's a VA, someone that knows VA home loans, realtor, lender, whatever, you want to work with somebody that actually knows what they're doing, because these are perks to get your house to sell faster, if and at all, versus the competition. Okay. All right, so I think that we talked about everything. I'm just looking over my notes here. We talked about full entitlement, partial entitlement, talked about renting. We talked about all of those things. Okay. I think that is it. If you have any other questions about a VA home loan, renting out your VA home loan, or selling your home with assuming the mortgage rate, let me know. If you're based in South Carolina, reach out to me. I can help you. If you're not based out of South Carolina or looking to move here, I can find you a lender and or a realtor who specializes with VA home loans. I hope this video has been very helpful to you. Again, reach out with questions and comments. Hope you have a great day.